VersaMark Art tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to make your projects literally pop when you're working with vellum. By using your little stylus tool, you can add some contrast of some color and texture to your vellum pieces on your project. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up down below. And when we're done, please hop on over to stampwithlorraine.com where you can see information on this project as well as many others. Hey, and while you're there, please sign up for my mailing list and you can receive a free project tutorial when you do, and I'll keep you posted on a lot of things of Stampin' Up! And some other projects. So let's head over to the stamping table and get started. Today's project uses the Forever Blossoms, and I'll show you how you can do a little extra embossing technique on vellum to kind of kick up your card just a little bit. So we're going to start with a Whisper White background. So that's your 8.5 by 5.5 piece scored in the middle at 4 1/4. We have a piece of Seaside Spray that I embossed with the Subtles background folder. You can see those little lines there. I love that. It is very subtle, so it just gives a little bit of texture so you don't have such a plain card front. And then we're using a strip of Night of Navy and using a couple of my little scraps or 1/4 inch strips that are going to go on either side of the Night of Navy. And then we have a piece of vellum that we're going to gold emboss, and then I'm going to show you a little trick that you can do to kind of pop that up a little bit, and that's going to lay over this. So let's get started on the embossing. So I'm going to use this big flower here, and just so you can see this vellum better, I'm going to use this dark brown paper just to make it a little bit easier to see that since it's so clear. So we're going to use our VersaMark and ink up the large flower image. I'm going to stamp it right in the middle of this. Now this is measuring 7 inches long. It's longer than our card because we're going to fold it over. As you know, gluing down vellum is tricky. You want to either put your adhesive or glue dots behind something that's a solid that it won't show, because otherwise things will show. But we're going to wrap this around the card so you don't have to worry too much about that. Okay, so we stamp that up with the VersaMark. Bring in our gold embossing powder. And remember, you don't want to have this sit too long before it dries, before you get your powder on. VersaMark will make the powder stick. And then just shake it off. Now we used to have Stampin' Up! Used to sell something called an embossing buddy that a lot of my stampers are familiar with, but for some reason they're not selling it right now. So you want to make sure that you get all those little specks off. Sometimes I use a little paintbrush. I think you can also use a dryer sheet because that's an anti-static thing. You could put just a little brush of the dryer sheet over there. Okay, so now we're going to heat this with our heat gun. And when you do that, you don't want to hold it too long in one spot, but you don't want to just go quickly over it either. You want to hold it in one area until it starts to melt, and then just kind of move it along. I like to think of it like a wave, just kind of washing along, and then once it's shiny and melted on there, then you're good. So here we go. Okay, like I said, once it's shiny, it's all set. It's all good. And it dries pretty quickly. It is a little hot. Sometimes the vellum can bend a little bit, so sometimes you want to play with it. But look how pretty that is with the shine there. It's might be a little hard to see on the video, but there you go. When the light catches it, you can see that. Okay, so that could look really pretty just as it is. I'll show you what that looks like when we put this all together. When we put that with a dark background, it does show up a little bit, or even on a lighter background, it can show up. but we're going to do a little something to make those flowers pop before we put it all together. And close up my VersaMark. So using a foam pad of some kind with a piece of paper over it, could be computer paper or grid paper. I'm going to take that piece that you just embossed and flip it over to the back. Now with a stylus, which is what sometimes you make your score lines with, or some other embossing type lines that you need, using the thick end of a stylus, you're going to just rub the back of the vellum behind and within the lines of the image. So you're just going to, using circular motions, start with a gentle touch, and then you can go a little harder when you get a feel for how dark you want it to be. When you start doing that, it's going to create a little bit more of a white tone. I'm not sure if you can see that very well. I did this right here. A little bit more of white. It's going to kind of stretch the vellum and make it a little bit more of a cloudy look. Maybe it shows a little bit more white. Let me do a little bit more so that you can see. You don't want to just do lines. You don't want it to look streaky. So using circular motion, I'll do just a couple of these flowers so that you can see the difference. If it's not enough for you, you can go back and do more. By having the foam underneath, it allows you to give and push into the vellum just a little bit. And that's going to highlight those flowers a little bit. Do the buds and the leaves. Okay, the more you do, the whiter it will get. So maybe you can see how that looks a little whiter here than over here. It looks a little bit different. All right, let me try to get that there. All right, so it kind of pops it up. Also, it's going to give it more dimension. It's going to pop it up. So not only do you have the dimension of the gold embossing, but now this is popping it up a little bit. Makes it look a little puffy like, so gives it a little something extra there. So I already did a full one, and that's going to go over the blue. See how that really kind of shines and picks up, adds a little more contrast than just the gold embossing. Let's take our blue strip, and we're going to put that onto the Seaside Spray. Right there. Put this down. Okay, and then we're going to put our gold strips on the side. Now because these are kind of tiny, a little hard to hold, I'm just going to put a little strip of glue down the edge of the blue here, and then it's just going to butt right up against there. Might be the easier way to go. And I'm not going to worry that it's just a fraction higher there, because I'll trim that off. Do the same thing on this side. Normally, I don't think of putting gold with the blue, and especially the light blue. I'm more a silver and blue person, but I did see this color combination used, and I said, you know what, that really is pretty. So I said, let's give it a whirl. Once we have this piece, now this is going to overlay. So we're going to measure where we want that image to be, and I'm going to make it go a little high, so that I'm going to put a sentiment down here. So it's going to extend the blue and go a little bit onto the gold, and you're going to have some of the gold showing. So I'm going to do that and just fold the top over, and then fold the bottom over. And you'll give that a nice crease with your bone folder. Okay, and if you want, if your piece of vellum is a little bumpy, you can take a little bit of glue and put it behind these flowers, just a little dot of glue, maybe with a Q-tip. It's not really going to be seen, but mine seems to be fairly flat, and this is holding in the back. So let me just add a little bit more glue over here to hold that down. And now we can put it on our card base. Okay, see how pretty that is? That white really pops the flowers up. Okay, so I'm going to add this little scalloped rectangle from the Stitch So Sweetly dies, and I embossed the little love in gold that came from the Forever Blossoms sentiments as well. If I put this here, that will help hold it down a little bit. So there we go. So that's a real pretty, I made that a little crooked. There we go. Be a card for somebody special, or wedding, or birthday, Mother's Day, okay, whatever. So here's some other options. I was playing around with how to do the sentiments, and so I die cut a lot of options, different colors, different inks, different shapes, and was playing around which ones I liked best. So you can do the same thing until you find the things that you like. So here's some other options. Same card, just using the stitched ovals in the stitch shaped die set, and then the scallop from the layering ovals. So did that on the Seaside foam. That's another option. And then I did one all in white. So if you want a really pretty wedding card, just all in white. And then I embossed the love on the vellum here. I used some of our old gold twine, gold cord that I had left over from a long, long time ago. We haven't sold that in a while, but I thought that was really pretty. And then I think this one might be one of my favorites. I tied the cord just around the strip that goes down and tied a little bow on there. This one, as you can see, has the Seaside foam card base, and I did the subtles embossing on the white, so altered the colors a little bit. So you can play around different options with pretty much the same card or the same layout. So, you know, today's inspiration is pop up the vellum a little bit by rubbing it on the back, getting a good look there, taking a layout or design and see how you can change it. And you don't have to do this with gold embossing, with embossing on the vellum. You can do that same technique with just ink. So I took the painted poppies, I took the little flowers from here, and I stamped that in black on the vellum. Now, one thing when you're using regular ink on the vellum, when I used the memento on here, it's going to take a while to dry. It's not paper, it's not going to absorb as much, but I did do this last night, and obviously it's dry. So I can't tell you exactly how long it's going to take, but I did want to get that done ahead of time. Or you can use StazOn. Your StazOn ink is for when you have something glossy or shiny. You can stamp on shiny plastic or glossy paper or glass. It's, as it says, it's a solvent ink pad, so it will stay on that. So I did one with the StazOn, one with a memento. So if you want to do this in a quick manner of time, use your StazOn, and otherwise you can use the memento. So I flipped that over, and I just pressed into the back of the vellum on some of the flowers, and hopefully you can see the difference. The ones on the right, I have, you can see, are a little whiter, and the ones on the left, I didn't emboss at all. Now I could go back and do a little bit more on that, and it would pop up a little more, but it gives just a little extra. Okay, so a little trick there that you can try at home. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you have fun embossing with your Stylus tool. If you don't already have a demonstrator with Stampin' Up, I'd love to be yours, so feel free to contact me through my blog, or you can email me at Lorraine@stampwithlorraine.com. So hope we can be in touch, and until